Salam, hamıya salamlar. Fidan salam, belə heç kimlə görüşməmişik. Birinci dəfədir belə. Yəni ki, kimlənsə tanışlıq oldu. Yəni bu Game Factor-dən ya ümumiyyətlə Game Tech-dən. So çox şadam məni dəvət elədiyinizə görə. Dediğin kimi mən bilmədim sona belə eləyə bilərdi. Yəni mən video yazılı da görünə bilərdim və sonradan da qoyula bilərdi. Amma belə vaxtım var idi. Belə də olar. Özüm gəlməyimə şad oldum ki, görüm necə keçəcəkdi birinci. Özüm haqqında biraz danışım. Əgər mümkün olarsa, çünki Türkçəm belə də yaxşı deyil, İngilizcə danışmaq istəyərdim. Mən işimə görə də rahat olacaq danışıqda, işin əlaqəli əsasən də. So if I may speak in English, it's easier for me. My name is Rauf. I've started in US working. Basically, I got my education in US, and then I started working at a bank initially as a software QA. Looked for different things, ended up in the IT field. Not something I studied for, and then currently I work at Ubisoft as a product owner. I'm not a technical person in general, I would say. I know our audience could be very technical, but myself, I'm from the business background, business major background, and then I'm as a product owner. I'm working with business teams to build the solutions that would help Ubisoft as a company. So could I get started with my presentation at the point, or? All right, I will get started. First I'm trying these, so let me see how the screen sharing will work. I have created a few slides that I'd like to share with you. What I'd like to talk about, as I said, I work as a product owner at Ubisoft, and the product that I work on is pretty much the data. As you know, in the current world, the data is the central point of a lot of the decisions that are made in companies. And there's a lot of money spent on buying data, selling data, and all that. So at some point, someone has to use the data to actually build a product or do something, make a decision based on the data. So that's the field I'm in, and I'd like to talk about that, mainly data analytics in gaming. And this is going to be my experience, my knowledge of what we do at Ubisoft. So don't take it as something that is standard everywhere. There are companies probably doing a lot more than this, but this is my experience that I'd like to share with you guys. And if you have any questions, I'm going to try to look at the chat at the same time. Feel free to add your questions in there. I do understand Turkish and Azerbaijani, of course, but then I can try to answer your questions, because I want to have this conversation. Hopefully, if there are questions, I can answer based on your questions. All right, I'll move on. First things first, I wanted to talk about a little bit of the why does my job exist? What we do at Ubisoft? Why is it important? First of all, Ubisoft has had this, let's say, a mission or a vision that they have, is that they want to be a company that is player-centric. What they do, what they build as a game, the experiences they build, it is centered around the needs of the players, their experiences, to basically have an experience that is not matched elsewhere, let's say. So they pride themselves in building experiences, games that are unique as much as they can. You guys are probably familiar with the Ubisoft games. I've been a gamer since, I don't know, 5-10 year old, and then I've been playing Ubisoft games, Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed, I think Splinter Cell, Tom Clancy's story, those kinds of games. I mean, I've been playing since I was a kid. So to me, this kind of experience where you actually have had experience as a child, and then now you're getting in the field where you actually work with the data that is related to the games, it's an unreal experience. So I do understand where Ubisoft comes from when they're having this approach, and all of that when you're trying to appeal to your players, basically build experiences for your players. First, you need to understand who are your players, which is where the data comes in. So to understand your players, you would need first to find the data to see what you know about your players or customers, let's say, and then how can you make experiences that are unique to your users, to your players. So this is what drives the decision making at Ubisoft in general, and it is, if I had to summarize, I would say Ubisoft overall has an analytics team, basically a data analytics team within each business department. I myself am part of the enterprise data department, which is a centralized data warehouse team that basically provides data solutions to various teams across the company. But there are individual analytics teams within each business organization. Let's talk CRM, finance, HR, whatever they might be, sales, whatever they might be. There's an analytics within each group. So their data is basically everywhere. I mean, no matter where you look, obviously, as you know, like assuming you're a VP or a manager, a director, trying to look at the effectiveness of your tool that you're building or the game, how is it doing? You want to look at some data. You want to look at some dashboard to see if the game is doing well, if you're reaching your customers the way you intended to when you first built the game. Going on to the next slide, I want to talk about a little bit, as I was saying, it's all about understanding your customers or your players to make the decisions. I want to talk about a little bit. Of course, if I try to talk about analytics in general, there's just not enough time to talk about in the 30 minutes that I have. But if I had to pick a topic that I can talk about for a little bit, player journey is something that always interested me, and even right now, I'd say it's the core of, it's the basis of what we are working on. If I can say it like that, it basically represents understanding of your players' full journey, as in how did they first learn about Ubisoft? No matter what outlet, what media source it was, how did they learn about Ubisoft or a specific game, and then all the way to the point where they're playing the game, they're renewing their membership or whatever that might be. So that is more of a full journey of our players. There's a lot of information here. This was just one of the samples that we use at work. I thought this was something that I can share. It doesn't really have any inside secrets or anything. So to me, this is how we would look at understanding what data we need in the company to be able to make the decisions that matter. And if I can explain this, what you're looking at right now, from left to right, we have the stages of the user player journey, and within each one, we have the dots or the arrows connecting them, showing that each let's call them a touch point that the customer will have, or the user. I keep using the word player, customer, user, because depending on the person that you are looking at, we're looking at, if they play the game, we would call them a player. If there are some users who are not actually a player, they're just one of our customers, then we use the word customer. So they're interchangeable in a sense. So to me, these touch points that you see as dots connected with arrows represent basically every touch point, and our goal is to understand as much as we can about every touch point, the performance, and to see if we are able to connect the dots between the customer journey points. For example, we can know that some of you saw the video on YouTube about one of the new releases that we have, Ubisoft game, and let's say it gets millions of views, and then the next point we get we put a link in that video showing that you can subscribe or get registered for the beta segment of the new game that we are announcing. And then we can see how many people register. So basically, we have the touch points, and then it's the matter of finding the right data to be able to connect the dots so you can make the right decisions. To me, this represents a very valuable image at a high level. If you think about, like if you're the manager, a VP, again, director, I'm talking about someone at a high level that wants to see the high level picture, to see, okay, where we stand, what are the main points that we need to care about, we need to pay attention to, and then invest in to be able to get your return on investment. That's at the end of the day, I think for any business, that's the goal, return on investment. But it's the way you do it, I think, matters on whether are you prioritizing money over everything, or are you prioritizing the experience of the players more than anything, which will in turn drive your revenue, sales, whatever it might be. So this is the approach we have. And I've also listed a few indicators, KPIs, let's say, that we would use to track our success, let's say, measure our success at each touch point, at each phase of the customer journey, player journey. So in a sense, this is pretty much what my whole work is revolving around. At every touch point, we'll look at what data do we have, what are we missing, what can we get, and what can be crossed to create a meaningful analysis to see the performance of our game, performance of our new title, or even build some forecasting to be able to tell. For example, the Assassin's Creed is a series of games that we have created. When you release a new game, before you do that, you look at your statistics in the last few months of the previous games in that same brand, and basically build your forecasting model to see how would you expect both on overall players and revenue and whatever it might be. So again, I can talk about it all day. To me, this is a very interesting topic, and I will be glad to talk about it at another time. But for now, I will try to keep it short. I got to keep an eye on the time. Let me just take a look at the questions here to see if there's anything. I think we're good. I don't see any questions for me. All right. I'll move on to this one. I just spoke about overall journey, if each data point. I wanted to show you some examples on what that means at the end of the day. This is just one example. I try to be. This is the information actually we dashboards that we build. Of course, as a data product, it's a matter of the business needs. But depending on the business needs, as it is my job as a product owner to be able to build a product that the business wants. It could be a dashboard that looks something like this, which is really one of the dashboards that we have built, or it could be some operational need. For example, the CRM teams could be having campaigns that they need to send out to all the players who played the game in the last 1 week. So that's the data that we can extract and then kind of make it work for the CRM team's operational needs. So in a sense, the needs of the business revolves into really two big buckets: operational needs and the strategic needs. Operational, just to make sure that our business runs as it should. Daily needs, it could be more granular, let's say, needs. And on the strategic level, I would say things like this dashboard. Anyone who can read basically can look at these numbers here to try to have a basic understanding. All of this is basically is made possible. I will talk a little bit about it because to me that's the core of how a gaming company would understand their players. This is all based on the in-game tracking that is available for Ubisoft games. So let's say you play a game on PC. From the moment that you click on that executable file that you open up, or to the moment that you actually play, you kill monsters, you turn left, you turn right, whatever you do in the game is all tracked at some shape or form, and that's really what we leverage to build insights into the games. For example, we can look at the data to see the total number of players we've had, in the last week, in the last month, overall. This is exactly what you see here, acquisition KPIs, we call them, as in, this game that the name of which I'm trying to hide has 3 million active total unique players. Not active, sorry, this is total unique players. And then it has a breakdown by the platform. So basically, all of this is possible because we're able to track within the games understanding of what basically information that your platform that you play on sends back to the Ubisoft servers. And then, for each platform, it's the same thing. So it doesn't matter if it's a mobile game, what platform you have, PC, whatever consoles. It's the matter of building a visual dashboard that would help whoever is making the decision about the business, about their future business goals, their strategic business needs. Just a few examples I mentioned about the breakdown by the platform. We have the breakdown per, this is something that new we have added. It's a cross-platform or cross-progression functionality. As you probably already know, it's not a new technology, but you could play a game. There are two ways I look at it. You can play a game on your PC in the same game with someone who's playing on their PlayStation 4 or 5, so basically two different platforms playing together. And then there's another idea is that you have a PC and a PlayStation, so you start playing your game in the PC, and then you pause the game, and you go pick up your PlayStation and then continue there. So that's more of a cross progression. So we pay attention to that because it's something new in the market. We want to see how it performs, And you can see here, 94% of the players just play the game on one platform. Maybe it is good to have, but it's not, obviously, if you try to make a decision about a new game, should it be a cross-platform? This is your answer probably, that maybe it's not worth it if you're going to spend extra money on that. And then a little more about the retention KPIs. Other than breakdown of how many players you have and what platforms they played on, you also want to know about individual experiences. How long do these players play the game? You can see that the last active base percentage, day one drop, which is a big number we track for our new games that release, to see basically, obviously, when the game releases on the first day, there's a lot more hype in the beginning, and then the hype goes down. That's the usual chart that kind of goes up and then down. Is that something that you always track to see how your game is performing? These are all metrics and the dashboard that are used by the production teams, we call, as in, for example, Ubisoft has, I believe, studios in about 27 different countries, and then having those studios make games and then release, publish it under Ubisoft's, and Ubisoft's name, then you would have the studio that made the game try to understand what metrics they need to track, how the game is performing, to see if they need to make any changes, update anything, to better understand their players. So this information would be very valuable to anyone on the project team who's building a game, to see, okay, how are we doing? Do we need to improve anything? Maybe we need to make something more interesting, and then maybe listen to the customers more to see what they're talking about. Now, and since I'm talking about listening to the customer, next I wanted to talk about the other side of the data, which is the slide that I was showing was more of a data that we see from our players because they play the games. There's another side of the data that we also work with, that I would call more of a market or media market data. This is the data that we normally don't have ourselves. As you know, there's a big market for buying and selling data. So as many of the other companies, we basically buy data that would be useful for our analytics, for our marketing purposes, let's say. And in this one first example here, I'm showing what we call a listening as a service. It basically data that provides you an understanding of whether the general public, doesn't matter where they might be, people who are on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube comment section, on Twitch, Reddit, on different forums, all of that basically information, comments, posts, everything is aggregated, and then it is analyzed to see if the comments are positive, negative, neutral, and then it gives you an understanding. Let's say you release a brand new game, and then it's been, let's say, 2 weeks that the game is released. You want to look at how is the game doing. Are the comments positive? Are the people happy about the game, or is it not? And then why? So here, basically, you can see the breakdown of, okay, see over time, the graph showing that we're improving our image. Let's call it an image. And then different comments on kind of summarizing why do people think one way or another about our games. So that's the sentiment analysis, or listening as a service dashboard that we have built on our side. And then the second one that I'd like to kind of talk about a little bit is the Twitch viewership. Similarly to the sentiment analysis, it basically gives us an understanding of how are the games performing in the public, outside of basically our kind of something that is outside of Ubisoft control. Twitch, YouTube, whatever, we cannot force people to watch things. So it's basically natural. You got to look at the numbers to see how they're doing, to see if we need to improve anything, or maybe if the game is not doing well, maybe instead of spending an extra $1 million, maybe you just cut it and stop the project. So to me, this just all the external partners that we have, starting from Sony, Microsoft, to Google, to Twitch, YouTube, and others, we have partnerships where we can share data between the companies, and then that's very valuable for us. We build direct API connections to bring data into our internal systems, and then build dashboards like the one you see here. This one isn't just a basic example showing that the most watched, most streamed the games on Twitch. And this is the 2020 data, I believe. Yeah. And then, obviously, we on our side, we would take the data that we have for Ubisoft games and try to compare. How are we doing? For example, Ubisoft made a recent game in this past summer. I think it's called the Hyperscape. It's a battle royale type of game, and a very fast paced, kind of a futuristic kind of a design and all. And then so we basically. It was the first attempt of Ubisoft trying to get into the battle royale gaming mode, and then it didn't perform as well as the others because the games that you already had in that field were just huge. I mean, imagine trying to compete with PUBG or Warzone that is popular now, Valorant or others. So to me, this basically gives us a chance to use data to gain insight about our own games and the competition, competitor games, and make the decisions that we need to drive the business. I am just going to check the comments, questions. I don't see anything, so I guess all good. Let me see. How am I doing on time? I think I started at 10:40. Is that right? I believe so, yes. Oh, no, actually 10:30, so I have 5 more minutes to go, which is right on time because I'm about to end this. So that's my story on the gaming, but I'd like to just add one kind of a last piece before I say bye. Maybe I'm moving too fast, and I'm sorry if you don't know. I don't know if you guys planned for some people talking shorter than you planned, but then just the last piece is that in the data field in general, maybe because I started working in data field as I got pretty much the first job in here. It's been something that I always enjoy. So I would invite everyone who wants to talk about. The data, how it's used. Again, this is my experience working in one of the products at Ubisoft. So I'm not an expert or anything, but then I would be happy to share whatever I know. So feel free to message me. I'm sure there will be some ways to contact me. If you have any questions, especially if you have any product ownership experience building product. I'm just really I would love to talk to you about different experiences we have. As I said, I'm not a very technical person, and I know a lot of you guys probably are developers, engineers, building games. That's awesome, but I have very, very limited experience in that. Data, if you want to talk about anything data, feel free to ask the questions. And then for now, that's all I wanted to share. Thank you guys for listening, and I will let you guys take it from here.